talk about the diminished.
I was hoping we were going to
Yes.
get to diminished scales because I use those a lot.
Yeah. Diminished is also a symmetrical
Yeah.
scale. So the pattern repeats itself. And if I tell you diminished scale, what are you thinking in terms of the construction of that
Well,
scale?
I'm thinking alternating between whole steps and half steps.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
either starting with the half step or starting with the whole step, depending on what flavor we're going for in a particular key.
Yeah.
But at least on the keyboard, there's really only a few diminished scales, and then you just can transpose them around. So it's really only a few different scales to learn.
Yeah. I think it's the same. Yeah. Same
So-
here. So there's kind of two flavors of
Yes.
diminished scales.
Uh-huh.
You said one starts with a half step, the other with a whole step,
Yep.
and it just alternates.
Yeah,
Half whole, half whole, half whole.
exactly.
And that would explain why Taylor said that there's only a few, because within, a diminished scale, let's say half whole, well, you've got multiple half holes, half holes.
Yeah, exactly.
And again, diagrams are there, but let's maybe try that.
Okay.
How about we switch flavors a little bit, and I'll go with the dominant seventh chord,
Okay.
an A.
Okay.
Just Mixolydian A type of thing.
Okay.
And we'll just see what happens. I'll let you
Okay.
play, and then we'll talk about that.
Okay.
So here's the A Mixolydian type of thing.
Okay.
Great. Yeah, that is really obvious when we were going inside.
Yeah.
Let's just try the scale over that chord. Would you take a name Mixolydian type of chord, vamp, whatever?
Sure.
And I'll start with the diminished, and I'll start with the one that's half step, whole step, half step, whole step.
Cool.
See what happens. Here it is again. Great. Love that sound. Very outsidey, but still works.
Yeah.
And now let's try the other one. I'll start with the whole step,
Great.
half step.
3, 4.
Great. So those are
Cool,
great
man.
tools to have.
Yeah.
And they're symmetrical again. You'll see on your diagrams how they're very guitar friendly,
Yeah.
and they work.
Yeah.
And in this case, so we were in A Mixolydian. I was we started that scale considering an A as the root, but really, if you're thinking about playing outside as just a little detour, why not just start that scale wherever you're at? It doesn't really matter.
Right.
It's kind of a sound type of thing.
Yeah.
Let's try that again. Let's go back to that groove, and I'll start it from wherever. I'm not even going to know where I'm going to start it from, and
Cool.
we'll see what happens.
3, 4.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
And we're kind of touching a little bit on another really important aspect of playing outside, and it's confidence when you're playing.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference between playing, with like that, or it's not very confident.
Right.
If you learn to be confident, and that exercise that I showed you where you're playing a note and looking at another one kind of helps you with that too. Just play with purpose and have that guide in my mind. It's a very simple guide. Taka, 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 taka. Now that doesn't mean that I'm playing every note on the 16th notes, but if I had to play a note, it's going to fall on one of the subdivisions that I'm choosing in my mind.
Yeah.
This kind of helps.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of thing. So yeah, any thoughts on?
Yeah, one thing that I tend to do when I'm in the diminished scale, kind of neighboring village, is if you think of the diminished scale that starts with a whole step, the first four notes of this are the first four notes of a minor scale.
Yeah.
And so you can kind of think of it as like 1, 2, 3, 4 of a minor scale, and then starting a half step up from that. And there's another first four notes of a minor scale. So if I'm in like, say I start with if we're in A, if I go, right? If I am starting here with the first four notes of the A minor scale, and then I start with the first four notes of the E flat minor scale,
Yeah.
then you've got those same shapes working.
Yeah.
And so that's, maybe for some people out there, it may be easier to think in terms of that. But sometimes I'm consciously thinking of like, F minor, B minor, F minor, B minor.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Breaking it into two segments of four notes or two shapes.
Yeah.
And in some context, that is easier. Other times I'm truly just thinking more mechanically about, whole step, half step. But oftentimes I'm thinking of, kind of an F minor type scalar shape and kind of a B minor scalar type shape. And so, I don't know if that is technically the perfect way to do it, but it's a way that works for me.
Yeah.
And I think, when you're speaking the language of music, it's good to find those little shortcuts that make sense to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And this kind of reminds me of something else that I do, where so what Taylor is doing on the guitar, it's pretty obvious too. If you take that diminished scale, starting with a whole step, you take the first four notes.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4. You find those first four notes in the minor scale. So that's just your root, major seconds, minor third, perfect fourth. And then if you continue within that diminished scale, this time we're on the fifth note. That fifth note can also be seen as the starting point of a minor scale.
Exactly.
And if we look at that, like the distance between that first note, A, and the fifth note, that's a tritone. And tritones, probably heard that term, but there's something really cool about tritones when you're playing outside. I find that it works. Now, you could analyze all that, but we're not going to do that because we're playing outside, so some things are not going to make sense. But I feel that this is an easy trick. Let's say that we're in A Dorian. I'm going to phrase in A Dorian. I'm in the village, right? All that's, we're home. If I want to go outside, I'm going to take the tritone of A, which in this case would be E flat.
Yeah.
And I'm going to think in terms of E flat Dorian. So you don't have to know why. It doesn't matter. I don't know why, but I think it works. And so over that A Dorian, I'm just going to, whenever I want to go outside, go tritone higher and play in the same nature of the key, which is Dorian, but in E flat. So let's try that.
Yeah.
So here's inside an A Dorian. I'm going to go outside in E flat Dorian.
Sweet.
Kind of works, right?
Sweet.